So welcome everyone. This is Hackathon for Social Good 2022 mentorship session. We are so excited to have you all here. Just a little bit about Women Who Code. We take our code of conduct very seriously. Women Who Code is an inclusive community dedicated to providing an empowering experience for everyone who participates in or supports our community. Our events are intended to inspire women to excel in technology careers, and anyone who is here for this purpose is welcome. We do not tolerate harassment of members in any form, and our code of conduct applies to all Women Who Code events, including this one, and our online communities, such as our Slack and social media. And you can read the full version at our website here. Our mission is to empower diverse women to excel in technology careers. Our vision, a tech industry where diverse women and historically excluded people thrive at every level. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Hackathon for Social Good 2022 with Women Who Code. Big thank you to our sponsor today, Shutterstock. So happy to have you here. Let's get started. So just a little bit about the hackathon. We are the hackathon organizers. I'm Stephanie Rideout. I'm Leadership Fellow for Women Who Code Python track. Anjali Menon, Leadership Fellow for Women Who Code Blockchain track. And my co-host for today, Zarreen Reza, Leadership Fellow for Data Science track. So a little bit about the hackathon. Our tagline is use your tech superpowers to create a solution for the social good. The Hackathon for Social Good offers an amazing and engaging learning experience for the Women Who Code community while we develop projects that promote social good. You can learn more at our website. And as I mentioned, this is hosted by Python, Blockchain, and Data Science. So at this point, we have a few more steps after today. Our project submission deadline is coming up very quickly. We're a little bit past the halfway point at this point. So we have until Sunday, July 3rd, 11:59 p.m. anywhere in Earth time. That's about 8 a.m. Eastern time on July 4th. So you have until that time to submit your project. At that time, the form will close. So we're very much looking forward to seeing all of your amazing work. And we have a project demo day and top team announcement that's going to happen on Saturday, July 16th. And the top teams will present at the Block Data Pi Summit, which is on July 22nd. I will now pass the session to Zarreen. Welcome, Zarreen.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for the great introduction. And thanks to all our mentors for being here today. So let's get into the mentorship session. So at first, let's just meet our mentors. So at first, we have amazing Margarita Pitsiani from our sponsor, Shutterstock. Next, we have Breeona, who is one of the Tiger Graph Hackathon winners. It was a Graph for All $1 million challenge, and she was one of the winning teams. That's amazing. And we also have Sara and Sofia from another hackathon winning team. So they also were part of the Tiger Graph Hackathon. So today they all will be sharing their experiences participating in hackathons and answer any of your questions regarding it. So at first, we would like to invite our Tiger Graph Hackathon winners, Sara and Sofia, to share a little bit of their project that led them to win the hackathon. And so over to you, Sara and Sofia.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Zarreen. So hello, everyone. My name is EL-ATEIF, and I'm a good PhD fellow, and I was one of the participants of the Tiger Graph Challenge. So our solution was about multimodality cancer disease link prediction. And what we did was use the Tiger Graph platform, so we can store the data into a graph format and then take that data and create a graph neural network to try and predict diseases, cancerous diseases from already previously available diseases, like trying to find new diseases from the ones we already have. So before I show you the demo, I just want to first, talk about how we formed the team and how we actually came up with this, the idea and all of that. So at first, first things first, we are part of the AI Wonder Girls team. That is a huge ladies team that has participated in several hackathons. And, you know, like all of us actually like from pretty much all over the world. And from time to time, we gather together and, you know, work on several different hackathons. So as always, what we did, I just like launched the link from the Tiger Graph challenge and shared it in our WhatsApp group, in the AI Wonder Girls WhatsApp. And we usually like what we do is just like gather a bunch of people that are interested in a certain challenge, get together in our Slack, and then start working on the project. And that's pretty much what we did too in this challenge as well. So at first, like, second thing we do is not just check out the challenge, it is also like try to figure out what is the topic we want to tackle according to our interests. So for example, me and Sofia are very much well interested in the health sector, and most precisely in the cancer kind of challenge. So what we did was we tried to implement something in that direction. And because like in my research, I learned that, you know, working with multimodality was much more efficient to diagnose diseases. And that is why I had set on trying to do something that had multimodality, I mean, my specialty, and then from Sofia's research specialty, which was graph neural networks. So we tried to combine both of these strengths to tackle this hackathon. And well, at first, actually, we were trying to use the breast cancer data set that was just newly released. But because of some challenges with the images, because it's like a new thing that is still in research, and because we didn't have much time to work on the problem to try and solve it, so what we did is that we, instead of using a data set that still needed to be transformed into a graph format, we tried and found a data set already available from Stanford that already like was provided as multimodal nodes and links. That's like the principles for graphs. And that's what we did. So we actually took that data set, tried to transform it into a format that will be easier to ingest into the Tiger Graph platform. Tiger Graph is like Neo4j, if you ever heard of it, but it has a machine learning component. Like you can, for example, play around it to perform recommendations and other things, but it still doesn't handle graph neural networks. So after feeding this data into the Tiger Graph platform, we just called a couple of methods so we can extract that data and then feed it into an actual graph neural network. So that's about like the part of how we got started and how we finished to determining the project we were working on. Now, I will share my screen so I can show you the demo. And then if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Can you see my screen so far?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. As part of Tiger Graph Challenge, we built a multimodal cancer graph, as in Sara, EL-ATEIF, me, and Sofia Bourhim, an all-women team, part of the AI Wonder Girls. Sorry. We got inspired from the drug repurposing knowledge that performed detection from diseases like compounds. So for example, if you have COVID-19, what are the drugs that you need to take or that you can take? We used the multimodal cancer network from the SNAP library. We prepared the data and designed the schema, loaded the data inside Tiger Graph, and built a model using Torture drug library to perform disease link prediction. As for the data we had 5 modalities, which are called chemical, protein, gene, function, and disease. And as you can see, they have different relationships between them. But what we were interested in was to detect the relationship between diseases and predict new links, new diseases. That's why we took the data and we transformed it into triplets format. And we split it into train, validation, and test. We defined it as a graph inside drug, and then we fed it to the rotation E method that helped us get the embedding of our data, like a compression of the data, and fed it to the knowledge graph completion model that will perform the prediction of new diseases through, of course, a certain disease. So our aim was to make it easier for clinicians to understand the interaction between different cancers and discover new variations so that it can help them come up with drugs to cure them. So we used for that, so we loaded data into Tiger Graph, which could help them read the data and understand the different interactions easily by going through the different relationships into that database. So in the future, we aim to get more data to include compound side effects and cover all cancers, make the querying system intuitive by using text instead of GSQL. As in, for example, if I'm interested to know breast cancer, the relationships between genes, proteins, and the disease, I might just write that instead of having to use a querying system, and then infer more meaningful links like disease gene and GG. Thank you.
That was it for me. Sofia, would you like to add something?
I would like
I truly believe that if you want to succeed,
more technical for like our project. We had mainly, since we had like 5 type of modalities, so we had basically 5 type of nodes. Each node represents a chemical. One type of nodes represent chemical, disease, function, genes, and proteins. And we had 10 links, represents actually the relationship between different types of nodes. So we have the chemical, chemical protein, this is chemical, this is disease, this is function, this is genes, function, gene proteins, protein, and protein function relationship. So since GNN basically doesn't handle heterogeneous graphs, what we did actually in a more manual way is actually extracted all the types metadata that we actually had in our data set. And based on that, we took the main 4 relationship that we basically used, since we had like a main focus on disease. And from that, we actually take those types of relationship and make it into a homogeneous graph, and then feeding it into a GNN model. So that was the main approach. However, I mean, recently there were like more ways of doing this in advanced way to define automatically meta paths, and actually for future direction to expand it into the whole network and actually extract the whole deep relationships in the network with basically using graph transformer networks, where they actually extracted some of the research papers, actually extracted those type of meta paths basically automatically without having to be specific on the domain knowledge and doing it manually. So that was the main things we actually did in our project. And that's it. So you guys, if you have any questions, we kind of here to answer it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great. It looks like a lot of work you have done to make it this far. We will take more questions during the panel discussion and at the end as well. Maybe for now, I just have one question. So while developing this hackathon project, did you face any particular challenges that you like to mention, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, actually, like the hugest challenge was, like I told you at first, actually, we wanted to tackle breast cancer, early diagnosis for breast cancer using multimodality data, like, for example, the imaging features, the actual WSI, which means like histopathological slides, and then, like the clinical information from patients. And like we actually spent a lot of time trying just to figure out how we can transform that data from like the actual values that we had. So for example, like pixels in images to actual graph data.
And that took us a long time, but that was like, you know, the challenge that we had. And that is why we had to, you know, like reformulate the whole project that we were working on at the last minute, so we can do something feasible. So the real challenge was having high expectations from the start without having the right skills to tackle them quickly.
That's a great point, but I think you still kept trying, and then you were succeeded. So that's amazing.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for your time. We will now move on to our second demo, and that would be provided by our another amazing winner, Breeona. So Breeona was a one-person team that won the Women Who Code category of the Tiger Graph Hackathon. So Breeona, would you like to tell more about your project?
Absolutely. Hi. So the project that I came up with was Diagnos X. It is a way for patients to kind of get more of an in-depth understanding of their diagnoses by using 3D models to essentially explain what your diagnoses, kind of what to expect with your diagnoses. So a little bit about me, I was originally a medical professional. While working at the hospital, one thing that I noticed was that we would have night after night, kind of the same patients come in for the same things, or we would see patients and their condition would deteriorate pretty bad. And then you ask them, you could review their records and see what was done to them. But it was kind of clear that physicians would talk to them and tell them, hey, you're diagnosed with high blood pressure, this is what that means, X, Y, and Z. But they didn't put it in a way that the patient would understand it. So I felt like there was definitely a disconnect, because patients would come in, they would get their diagnoses, they would get a full workup, and then 2 days later, they're back in the hospital. They feel that nothing's been done for them. And I just felt like a lot that came out of it was that patients just weren't understanding it. There was that disconnect because 100% of physicians are highly educated. Every patient that you're going to have is not going to be highly educated, but they still need to know about their disease process. So that is why I came up with Diagnos X. So I'll give you guys a rundown of that. Let's see. Sorry, I gotta allow some. Okay, let's see if I can do it now. Okay, can everyone see my screens?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I was very much into this, so I created a landing page and everything for it. So pretty much just going into the importance of Diagnos X, how it offers a new approach to accessing care and alleviating the burden of providers. One of the overall messages that I wanted to go over or like really target with Diagnos X was kind of the inequalities within healthcare, because on average, doctors probably have about 17 minutes to spend with a patient. So if you're spending it with someone that is more educated, they're able to get a higher quality visit than if you're having to explain to someone, you're having to start from the bottom with the explanation. You're having to explain, for the blood pressure example, you're having to explain what blood pressure is, what high blood pressure means, what are the normal levels. So I really wanted to, sorry, I'm still waking up, but I figured that with the projected shortage of physicians that we're expected to have in 12 years, we should leverage the technology that we have so that that 17 to 24 minutes that physicians get with a patient can really kind of extend beyond that. And we can help with the physician shortage by kind of helping them be in more than one place at one time. So just visual information, and physicians can reallocate their time. And so I can go into a little demo here for you. So ideally what this would, let's try it. So this is the 3D model here. So ideally this would be tied with the charting system. So the patient here, this is patient John demo. It has his vitals here. You can interact with it. You can see how the physical exam was, how the HENT, cardiac, abdomen, and musculoskeletal exams were, and the cardiac, there's some abnormal findings there. So you can click and say, what are my abnormal findings? Well, the doctor has found that your heartbeat is slower than it should be at 56 beats per minute. Well, what does this mean? The range of 100 to 70 beats per minute is pretty much the average. Yours is a little lower than that. So then you can go more into it. If I had more time, I wanted to really show this 3D model of the heart kind of when the pressure is higher, the heart beats slow because it's having to kind of work against like all of that pressure. And then when the pressure is really low, it beats a little bit faster because there's not very much pressure to it. But yes, that is Diagnos X. So even from the emergency department standpoint, in the emergency department, doctors really have even less time to spend with patients. So my vision for this would be, all of the work and everything has like come back on this patient. The physician has given the diagnoses. They're just waiting until they have like some free time to reassess the patient. But in the meantime, the patient can essentially get the frequently asked questions out of the way, so that the doctor can kind of reallocate their time to more like niche questions that the patient may have. Like, for example, I didn't work in the emergency department during COVID, but I did work in the emergency department during the really bad influenza outbreak that we had in 2017. And one of the things that I feel like really contributed to the physician that I was working with in particular, or a number of physicians rather, their burnout was that they were seeing 20 plus patients a day. And let's say 15 of those 20 patients were coming in because of the flu. So you're having to go in and you have the same diagnoses for each of the patients. You're having to explain to each of them like what the flu is, like you're having to explain like what the treatment and everything is. My vision for Diagnos X would be that it would pretty much explain those things for them so that when the doctor comes in, they have more time. They've gotten the frequently asked questions out the way so that they can ask the doctor, hey, yes, you diagnosed me with the flu. How does that impact my pre-existing condition of my diabetes? Will that make my blood sugar go higher? You can ask those more like niche questions. It just kind of leverages technology to do some of the like repetitive work that physicians were having to do. I definitely ran into some issues with developing this. This is in 3.js. So this was my first project, like working with the 3D models. And of course, like integrating it with Tiger Graph's like graph database. The reason why I really like the graph database is because if you look at a graph, like there is different ways of traversing the graph. So you can do the breadth of the graph, you can do the depth of the graph. And I felt like for information, especially on like a given diagnosis, that would be perfect because right now when you're given a diagnosis, you can look this information up online. You may or may not get accurate information and it's very static. Whereas if the information was in graph form, you could traverse the same graph over and over again, but now I'm going to traverse the graph depth-wise, and you get one result there. Okay, I'm going to traverse it breadth-wise. So it's different information based on how you traverse the graph. So it kind of makes it feel more of a personalized experience. But yes, that is Diagnos X.
That was great, and it was super impressive. And the 3D part that you showed, it seemed really unique to me, like a different representation of a very prevalent problem. So very well done, and congratulations again for winning. So as I said, we will take more questions during the panel discussion, and we will move into that shortly. Before that, maybe I just wanted to ask one question. So what are some tools that you used while developing this project? Maybe you can talk about the main tools that you use, maybe for the website. For the 3D part, you mentioned you use JS, but overall, what are some tools you used?
So really towards my hackathons, I tend to go with tools that I want to grow in. So of course there's using the technology that the hackathon requires use. So for this one, it was that we used Tiger Graphs. I used Tiger Graph, but really my language of choice is JavaScript. So I usually go for coding in JavaScript or different languages that require that kind of use the JavaScript library. So this one was really just 3.js. I think there may have been some GSAP for the animations, but for the most part, it was 3.js and Tiger Graph for this one.
Great. Thanks so much. So that's all for our demo section. And now I think it's time that we move on to our panel discussion. But before moving to that, it would be my pleasure to introduce to our third mentor for today, which is Margarita Pitsiani. She's a data scientist at Shutterstock, and her work is focused on developing machine learning models for contextual image recommendation. She has developed a framework for detecting different forms of bias present in predictions from those models. And last year, she finished her PhD in systems neuroscience at University College London, where she was studying cortical computations. Welcome, Margarita.
Thank you very much. It's a very warm welcome, guys. Thank you.
Pleasure's all ours. So let's get started with the panel discussion. And for the panel discussion part, Margarita and Breeona both will be joining us. So to set the stage first, let's just talk about your hackathon experiences so far. Not any particular hackathon, but overall, apart from the winning part, what were some takeaways you got from participating in hackathons, from skill wise, from experience wise, if you could share them?
Well,
yeah, go ahead, Breeona.
So I started doing hackathons back in I think it was my senior year of college back in 2019, and I think this may have been my 32nd hackathon that I've attended. I honestly went to them, and it honestly sparked a love of coding for me, doing the tech competitions, because you could really see how in a week you can develop something that actually has the potential to make an impact on people. And there's a lot more that you can learn outside of the classroom. So my first hackathon was actually See You Hack It, put on by Clemson University. I learned about APIs. I knew nothing about the world of APIs. And once I went to that hackathon, I did a workshop on APIs, and now APIs are probably one of the greatest things to me. So each hackathon was about kind of learning something new about the different technologies that are out there. I mean, always encourage people to do hackathons. Like I spoke with WIT with my university, and there's always, and I mentored a number of students at my university also. And I feel like a lot of them just felt like, oh, I'm a beginner. I, haven't even built an application before. I think hackathons are the best time because no one is underqualified to attend a hackathon. It's the best place for beginners. It's the best place to build something outside of school. It's pretty much like baby work experience because you come together with teammates, you have a weekend to build something, you build something, now you have an actual like application that you built using this technology to use on your portfolio. So when it came time for me to like apply for jobs, because I had been to so many hackathons, like my first job, I didn't even have a technical interview because they could see all of the work that I did on the hackathons. And, so it's always, I mean, there's free food. So it's always great to have that. You get free food, always t-shirts, swag, and you learn a ton. And there's games to play. Even if you go just to see the projects, I can't recommend hackathons enough. And I mean, you never know, like just find something that you wish there was an app for, or you wish there was a website for, and just build it. Sky's the limit. Like, yeah.
Thanks so
And
much. Yeah, Margarita, please.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. I guess my answer is going to be across the same lines. For me, of course, I think the first time I joined, because it was a couple of years ago, I was less experienced. I was a bit stressed and I was feeling, am I like qualified enough? But as you say, once you get there, you realize that it's just a great experience to learn. For me, it was also amazing to meet people that have the same interests with me as well. And because I'm coming from the data science point of view, when I was teaming up with people from like software engineer side, I could like see the other side of the coin, which helps to understand like the full picture of a product. And I guess the only thing that sometimes find frustrating hackathons, but not for this one, I guess going to be, was that if the hackathon is too short, like a 24 hours one, and you're a data scientist, you really don't have enough time like to train a model, and it becomes very stressful. But it's amazing that for the Women Who Code Hackathon, you have like it's spread across days. So if you want to train a model, just start it from the very beginning, so you can start training while you do like other kind of parts of the project.
That's some great advice. Thanks so much for sharing great experiences. I'm also personally a big fan of hackathons, and I got my first job through a hackathon as well. So it definitely works. Maybe as a next question, can you tell us what are the top 3 things according to you that you think set participants up for success in these hackathons? Because time is a big factor here. It's like a sprint. So what are some things that the participants can make sure to have so that they can be successful?
Yes, shall I go first?
Sure.
I think the 3 elements, I would go first of all to find a topic that is motivating for you, because when you work with something that motivates you, you give the 100% of yourself. Then I would say that in general, hackathons, don't underestimate the presentation part, because you might spend like too much time in doing something amazing, and then when it comes to present it, if you're not prepared, you can really kind of undersell in a way your project, which is kind of a shame. And I guess then the most important in terms of management is when you design or you think about your project, split it into small kind of features that your final model or your final project wants to have, and then work like feature per feature. So even if you don't manage to do the 100% of your project, you can have like, let's say 3 features, which is 60% if you have total 5, then you have something to present in the end. So it can be a success.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I think that's honestly how I go about the hackathons. Like it's your opportunity. I feel like in university, a lot of times you're building something that the professor told you to build. or you have like mock clients that you're building things for, and you may not be as passionate about those. Hackathons are your opportunity to build something that you're passionate about, that could potentially like help lots of people. For me, that's always the angle that I go at. Like I build a lot of medical applications because I have worked in the medical field, and I've seen how archaic a number of the systems are. And I've seen the negative effects of those archaic systems. So I'm like, you know, if I can apply a little bit of JavaScript and it helps even one person like have a better outcome for their diagnoses, like that's okay for me. I think a lot of times it's the message behind your project, not even so much your code. Like I've won a hackathon after my code crashed and I just had a PowerPoint of it. I think a lot is like lead with what you're passionate about, because if you're passionate about it, the judges will see it and it will come out that way. Second, exactly what Margarita said, just start small, and then kind of work your way up. Like a lot of people that I've noticed within hackathons, like they go in trying to build the next Google or the next Facebook, and you only have 24 hours to do so. And so of course, like you're not able to put it together, but you could start with something as small as like a little chat feature, and then, you know, work your way up from there. And then you can, you know, you have the presentation time where you're able to kind of say, this is what we have. And if we had a little bit more time, we would expand on it this way. I think that definitely sets you up for success. It's also just doing like a little, going to the workshops, definitely asking for help, definitely. There's always people that are willing to help, and really just having fun. Like it sounds really cheesy, but that's kind of the key to hackathons.
Thanks so much. There are some really great points, and I'm sure our participants are taking notes. So I know, Breeona, you have been attended a few hackathons as an individual person, and Margarita, you have maybe participated as a team or individual. So just wanted to know from your experience, like how does participating as a team compare to participating as an individual? We also got a question in the Q&A about the same thing, so I think it's a good time to discuss about this. Margarita, maybe you can start.
Yes, sure. I do have mainly experience working in teams, but I would say that for me it was a positive experience, because I said I like meeting other people and like get, you know, to share knowledge across different kind of, you know, expertise, like between data engineer and software engineer and so on. It's also great because, especially for online hackathons, you can take advantage of the different time zones. So if your teammates are like across different time zones, then you can work, you know, complementary. One thing that is the same across, so it's the same even if you work in solo or in team, is that always, I mean, if you have a lot of coding, just make sure that you have used GitHub for like version control or something like that, because this can help from like conflicts, or even if you have a bug, you can just go back in API and fix it. For solo thing, and if you feel that you don't fit in a team or in a different project, going solo is the best thing. You don't have like to go to a team if you feel that the project that they have is not for you. Yeah.
I agree also. I feel like starting out with hackathons, it's great to work on a team because there's always someone that you can learn from. Even if it's just you're building an application for a mechanical engineer and you know nothing about mechanical engineering, and kind of just like talking to them to kind of get the information for what you're going to build. You're going to grow. For me, I enjoy working on teams, but actually for this project, I had 3 other teammates, and they all kind of joined and then left. So, I mean, I didn't mind it. But I think starting out, like having a team is really helpful. But also don't be afraid to work on your own. Like I actually have an interesting story. So back in 2019, I did a hackathon with Amazon Web Services, their public sector hackathon. And my team ended up winning first place. So we got free tickets to go to the serverless config conference in New York City that October. So I go, I am one of 2 girls in the room, and I find one of my buddies who is like on my team back in DC, and we have like these 2 other guys like on our team. So, you know, we're all at the beginning just pitching our ideas and everything. And the guys kind of like pushed me out of the group. So it was, you know, when we were talking about our ideas, like they kind of like, I noticed that they didn't like address me like it, you know, they would address the other guys, but it's like, you know, they never talked with me. And then we kind of decided, you know, what we were going to go for. And I was like, okay, well, we have a guy that's, you know, he's a machine learning expert. So he's going to do the machine learning part. We have a backend guy, and then we have, you know, a data science guy. So I was like, okay, I will put myself on like front end because I want to contribute. And one of the guys was insisting like, oh, I can do the front end. It'll take me 2 hours, like no time. I'll do it. And so I went to the bathroom and came back. He was working on the front end. So I felt like I had been kind of pushed out of the group, and I wanted to give up. Like it was an 8-hour competition. 4 hours had already gone by. There were a number of teams that, you know, were already together, already coding. And I wanted to just leave and like go, you know, sit in on some seminars from the conference. And there was just something that told me, you know, don't leave. Like you didn't come all the way to New York to not compete. So I ended up going into a side room, and in 3 hours and 50 minutes, I put together my project, and I had 10 minutes left to put together a PowerPoint. And then it was presentation time. So we go to present, and I'm kind of sitting in the back. I don't want to go up and present because I'm like, my project isn't that, it's probably not that good. Like these are like professionals that, you know, have worked with Amazon Web Services for a really long time. Like my project's it's gonna be terrible. So one by one, I watched as everyone was like presenting, and their projects had all broke. So no one had like a functioning project. And so I go up there and I start with like my PowerPoint presentation. And then, you know, the judges were expecting, oh, it's just another PowerPoint, like she didn't develop anything. And then I actually was able to demo my project, which was a chatbot built with the Amazon Lex feature that would help people manage their medications so that they wouldn't overdose, or they wouldn't take too much or build too much of a habit of taking opioids to kind of help with the opioid crisis that we were having. And I ended up winning 2 awards there. So I feel like it's important to mention this for this being like a conference specifically to women, because I have been the only girl or one of a handful of girls in a room. And there are those kind of like micro things that kind of that your peers will do that kind of push you out. But as long as you stay in it and you just don't give up, like don't, like you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And that's why I'm glad that I didn't just leave and, you know, go to check out the conference. Like I took the last 4 hours, half the time that, you know, everyone else had, and everyone had a team. I was just by myself. I didn't quit on myself. So I feel like that's definitely an important thing, is just, I mean, don't stop trying, like, don't give up.
That was such an amazingly inspiring story. Thanks so much for sharing this. This is great, and keep like not quitting. I think is the most it's the hardest part to do, and if you can do that, you are set up for success. It's for sure. So happy for you. So I'm trying to be mindful of all of your time today. So maybe we can just close off, because I think it's a great stage after your inspirational story. It's a good point to close on a very sweet note. But before that, if you each of you can share any final tips for our participants of Women Who Code Hackathon, like some tips and tricks just to keep them motivated and be successful. Margarita,
yeah, I'm just gonna say the ones that come from the top of my head. The first one is search for resources. Sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel for a hackathon, but just to find the resources and bring them together to make something meaningful. Yes, also if you work in a team, kind of relevant to the story that I was just shared, that always mind the people that are less vocal. Sometimes they might have brilliant ideas and they're just less confident. So make sure that you include everyone, ask everyone to like share their opinions, and yeah, and have fun and don't stress about it. There's nothing to stress about it.
Yeah, I second everything that she says. Just have fun, enjoy, like, you know, if your project breaks, it's not the end of the world. Everyone's project breaks. It doesn't matter how good of a developer you are, you will run into bugs, things will happen. And just the nature of the hackathons, you won't typically have enough time to like make a perfect prototype. Just make a decent enough prototype if you can. And just have fun, like just enjoy like what you're creating, create something that you enjoy and just have fun.
Awesome. So having fun is the most important thing, I think. So thanks so much. And in the chat, I think all of our participants are so inspired and so motivated by all your experiences. If you can see, they really appreciate you sharing all this. So we kind of covered all the questions. Maybe there is one question for Sara and Sofia, but I think the question is related to TigerGraph, the software itself. So maybe Breeona, if you'd like to answer this question on behalf of them. So the question is the software free to use and access? And is it capable of real-time analytics for database?
It is. I think they limit it to, you can only have one graph at a time going. But yes, you can. I think some of their machine learning capabilities are in beta, so you may run into some issues there, but they actually have like a really great Discord. There's Dan, he heads all of the YouTube videos that they have. He's on the Discord. He's super nice. He helped me with my project, like putting it together. Just create a TigerGraph account. They even have their academy where you can take courses on it and actually learn like how the TigerGraph Studio works. Just start there, create the account, join the Discord, introduce yourself, play around with it, have fun.
Perfect. So I don't see any more questions here. I think that's it. We can call it a wrap today. And so there are some upcoming events that we have. So the hackathon project submission deadline is Sunday, July 3rd, 11:59 p.m. anywhere on Earth, basically. Then we have the project demo day, where we will also announce the top teams, and that will be on Saturday, July 16 at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And finally, we will have our Blog Data Prize Summit. And during the summit, we will invite the top teams to come and present their amazing projects. And that will happen on Friday, July 22nd at 10 a.m. Till 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And we will share all the other additional event details in our Hackathon for Social Good Slack channel. So I think Stephanie have shared the links in the chat. So if you haven't joined the channel yet, please do join it. And that's all from all of us. Thank you so much. You can join our communities, Women Who Code Python, blockchain, and data science. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us in Slacks. And thank you so much to our amazing speakers today, Margarita and Breeona. Really, really appreciate you coming and sharing your experiences. Take care. Have a great rest of the week.
Same to you.
Thank you very much, and good luck with your projects, guys. Bye.
Yeah, good luck, you guys.